in Cameroon where we were, it's a triple canopy rainforest, but it's actually a jungle. Like the difference would be jungle is very thick and difficult to move through.
Yeah.
Or impenetrable. And so that's why you got to have the pygmies in front of you with machetes to cut a path, because there's so many vines and the foliage is so deep.
Yep.
You can't walk through it. So that's what makes the rainforest so dangerous to hunt.
Yeah.
You don't see an animal until you're 5 to 10 yards from it.
Are you spooking an animal at that point, or
most
of the time? Yeah.
You can. It depends on the animals, right? Like the way a lot of hunting goes there. So if you want to shoot bongo or buffalo, you use they have dogs, these little greyhound dogs. And they're the only dogs that will survive. Like if you bring Jack Russells or some hunting dog to the rainforest in Cameroon, they die within a month. So most domesticated animals can't live in those areas because there's tsetse flies, and like even cattle and goats can't really survive there very well, definitely cattle. And so game's able to thrive there because like the natives can't, have herds of cattle there because they die off. Because, like wild game and domestic game, they compete for resource, right?
Yeah.
Like there's carrying capacity for a land. So, and it's different in different areas, but you have to have a certain amount of land with a certain amount of food on it to feed animals. And so, like if you want a kudu or a bongo, whatever the animal is, that's one cow you can't have.
Yep.
And vice versa.
How do they establish like that carrying capacity? Is that a biologist?
Yeah, that's a biologist will establish that. So it's the same thing with like deer. If you have a deer, property with deer and stuff like that, there's got to be a certain amount of food.
Yep.
That's a sad thing I know people are sensitive about elephants. And, when I was a kid and very ignorant to conservation and wildlife, I grew up in the city like you. I didn't grow up on a farm. It's like if you would have said, hey, you think anybody should shoot an elephant? No. Because, my exposure was like National Geographic and then, going to the circus or the zoo when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And
or kids, like movie characters, elephants.
Yeah.
And
elephants are smart. Yes, they are. And they are sensitive. And they are all these things. But elephants, if the populations aren't controlled, destroy habitat. And that means there's no kudu, there's no leopard, lion, water buck, impala, any of these other animals. So it's kind of like one of the things with the greenies, which I've experienced, the wrath of on this last hunt. And I'm not like giving into that ignorant bullshit.
Yeah.
They decide that pretty animals are important, but like, all the greens, the vegans, the vegetarians, I don't eat meat. I would never kill an animal. Well, when we clear these thousands of acres of land to plant your bullshit soy food that you eat, all those animals that live there, the mice, the snakes, the birds, the rabbits, everything is killed or, it's displaced. Like where does it, now there's less land for the animals to survive. So you like to pat yourself on the back and think you're doing something good, but you're killing animals.
Yeah.
By supporting that,
I think it's almost a responsibility of like the hunter, like us, like for us to educate people on these topics. Because like I said, I think I texted you this when you were there. Like if I would have read that article 10 years ago before Q, I would have been like, damn.
About me shooting the elephant.
I would have been like, damn, Kevin's an asshole. And I wouldn't have said the things that people have said about you, but I would have thought you did a terrible thing and like I just was ignorant to the situation.
Yeah, I think I would have felt the same way, right?
Yeah.
And so there's different things. So since I shot the elephant, an article like the next day popped up, and maybe a lot of people have seen it by now, but it's basically this article by, I think it originated in the Tanzanian vegan community Instagram. And so it's like a vegan website. And it says that I shot this famous elephant in this park that was named Matanu or something.
Yeah.
And
it survived the Civil War.
Yeah, and all these things. And it seems very believable. And it portrays me in a very terrible light. Now, to their credit, the one thing they did do is say that I shot it legally.
Yeah.
And that part is true. And that's about the end of the truth in the article. So it's probably generated by AI from some, liberal nutcase greenie. But so they call it a park in Cameroon, but what that means is the government takes the land and they take all the natives in the villages and they have to live outside of that land. And no one's allowed in there. It's not a park like, these articles make it seem like, oh, there's all these tourists in Cameroon and they can drive through there. No, you can't even go into there. And they start harvesting a lot of the timber. Mm-hmm. And I would have been against harvesting timber in Cameroon or in rainforest too, but they're so vast and there's so many trees and it's so thick, and they do selective taking of the timber. You don't notice anything is gone. Yeah. It's not like when you see these images of the Amazon rainforest and it's like shrink. Like, I flew over 4.5 hours of Cameroon rainforest to land on this runway that was 4.5 hours from the camp that I had to drive to. There was not a place for 4.5 hours you could have landed a plane. If the plane has something go wrong and you go down, you die. Yeah. Like, there is no place to land a plane. The jungle is so thick. So these parks, they call them parks, but it's not a park for tourists. Like,
it's not a park the way we think park.
No one had ever
inner
seen
city.
This elephant had never seen a person in its life. Mm-hmm. No one had ever seen this elephant. Definitely no hunter or anyone. Yeah. Maybe someone that was poaching from a local village that's maybe, 20 kilometers away or something bumped it before. So it's like I got over 100 messages, and there was a consistent theme, and it was, I hope you die a violent death. I hope your children get cancer and die and you have to watch it. Yeah, just for you shooting this elephant. And it's like, well, I don't know any of these people. And one funny thing about that was it was all the same people. One was dudes with face tattoos that work in dispensaries. And the other were people who, because these are direct messages to me on social media, that have cats as their profile picture. Yeah. Those are the two people. It's very predictable. And everyone says the same thing. Yeah. Like, how could you kill this, famous elephant that survived all this? And a couple people, so I'll respond to everyone in some way or another. When they tell me, they hope my children die and all, I just laugh at them because I think they're fucking ridiculous. And it's like, to me, it's so sad that you're such an ignorant, pathetic person.
Were there any messages that you could actually have a conversation with that person on the situation?
Yeah, if people didn't come out and say, I hope your kids die of cancer, or I hope someone rapes your mother, or all these terrible fucking things that no normal person that is mentally stable or adjusted would say to anyone under any circumstance. Yeah. I don't like Jason Hornady. I don't like Marty Daniels. Yep. I hope they have good lives, and I hope nothing bad ever happens to their children's family. I would like to smack both of them. But it's that's the extent of it, right? Yeah. Who wishes someone's family or children or mother, something happens to them? You're fucking sick. Yeah. But a couple people that were I don't agree with this. You shouldn't trophy hunt. Why would you do this? Even if it's a little aggressive. And so then I would respond. And it's I remember there's one German kid who was a college student, and he kind of sent me one of these things. It was a little aggressive and a little shitty, but it was enough to where, okay, why do you think that? Yeah. And he's like, well, I want to know why you would shoot that. And I said, okay, well, here's the existence of an elephant, right? This story is bullshit, but elephants, the populations have to be managed more than just about any other animal. So that's one thing. And there are no money in these places, and there's no value to these animals, because if the pygmies, that's the natives that live there, mm-hmm. they plant corn. So that's one of the crops that they plant and eat. Elephants will destroy their year's worth of corn in one night. Yeah. So they sleep around it, and they have makeshift shotguns and stuff and explosives or whatever to scare the elephants away when they come in. So they'll snare and kill all the elephants because there's no value to them.
But they cost them money.
Yes, and they can sell the ivory, illegally on the black market to China or whatever, which is really the poaching for these things. Because there's no value to them, and they're destructive. So people don't realize, natives in Africa and villages do not want elephants around them. Yeah. Because it eats all the crops. They can destroy the houses. They destroy the habitats. If they have trees that provide fruit or things like this that they need, an elephant will push it down and kill it. And it could be a 60-year-old tree just to eat a few limbs and eat a root off of it. Mm-hmm. So it's same thing we've talked about with predators in Africa, lion, leopard, stuff like that. Like the natives, if they're around their village, they snare them and kill them. The only way, and I don't blame them, the only way to keep them from doing that is for them to have a financial value that outweighs, the danger to them. And so, and hunters, that's what pays for anti-poaching, to keep the poachers from killing them all for the ivory. The subsistence, farmers who will kill animals for meat. All right, elephants not generally what they're killing.
Yeah.
So they'll snare dikers and stuff like that. But us placing this value, for instance, 2 villages that were closest to us, this elephant, the money from that is all the money. Their part of the money is all the money for those 2 villages for an entire year.
Wow.
Yes, and that is enough meat. There's no freezers there or refrigerators, so they'll dry all the meat, hang and dry it all. It feeds 2 entire villages for 2 months.
Yeah.
So you don't think they're excited about me being there and shooting this elephant? Because like last year, for instance, when I was there, they killed a big cobra. Like our trackers, our 4 trackers that with us did when we were there. And there was a giant rat in its stomach. Not only did they eat the cobra, they ate the rat.
Oh, wow.
So when you start like thinking about like real Africa, real wild Africa, Americans and Europeans, if you've not been there, like shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
But if you look at like today, you look at people in California, look at Los Angeles, right? Oh, yeah. Coyotes and stuff like that coming in. Look at what people do to their dogs and shit. You ever seen like the little vests that have spikes on their back?
No, are they doing that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like
Tommy, bring that up.
It's like those bear hunting uniforms from Siberia where it spikes all over.
Yeah, those coyotes are coming down and eat people's dogs in their backyard. It's like, imagine if that thing can eat you or destroy everything that you live off of.
Or for me, it's like, would you want an animal that, like, imagine living here, if an animal that size, that if it threw a temper tantrum in your backyard, like how much damage it could cause? Like, would you want that?
No.
Or what would you do if it didn't have a value? Or you would get rid of all of them.
It's ridiculous. The anti-coyote
$110 for that. People spend on that,
Well, I mean, if I had a 500-pound lion that lived in my yard that would eat my children, I would kill that thing. Of course, I don't blame the natives at all for this.
Yeah.
So the thing to do is you create a value for the animals, and that's done through hunting. Like photographic safaris, they pay for one single-digit percentage of the actual anti-poaching and conservation of the animals. The rest comes from hunting. That is all the money that protects these. And anti-poaching, what that means is they're natives that are trained through the army and stuff like that, and some are even Americans and Europeans that do it, that carry AKs or M16s or Scar Heavies.
I've seen the ones that was Scars. That was really cool.
Those guys were in the area
where
where
was
I
that?
was. They all have Scar Heavies.
Was that Cameroon?
Yeah. Have Scar Heavies. And in many African countries, poachers do not survive if they're caught.
Yeah.
And that's not like that is the black anti-poaching staff that is generally part of the police or military in these countries.
Yeah.
And, because the majority of the poaching isn't Americans and Europeans, I would think, oh, well, they need food. No, they don't do it for that. It's like the cats, it's for bones and stuff for the Chinese, and for elephants, it's the ivory.
I was talking to Andrew about that when I was over in Africa last time. Like, anti-poaching, like, are these people that are poaching because like they can't feed their family? No. And he was like, no, like they poach and they sell the meat or the ivory, stuff like that. And I was like, I could understand, like, if my family didn't have something to eat, I would poach 110%.
Absolutely.
He's like, but that's not the case. He was like, it's not the case.
No, as a matter of fact, everyone that has hunting concessions, like the outfitters that lease or own the property, like part of the deal is a percentage of the meat goes to the villages in the area. So that's how most of them get protein.
Yeah.
So, and it's the only jobs they can have out there. Anyway, it's the only way for them to earn an income. A lot of them, they don't need a lot of money because they still live very primitive. Like the pygmies still live on dirt floors. Like while in camp while I was there, they'll keep their chickens in their shacks that they live in their little villages at night. and the boards are all open and stuff on the houses because it's so hot there and everything.
Yeah.
But one of the trackers killed a cobra in his house at night that was trying to get one of his chickens. Oof. And he has 4 children living in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's their way of life.
I think after going to Africa and like living here my whole life, like we think about like wild animals, whitetail, you may see a yote or something. Like the amount of animals that are there, you can't like until you go to Africa and see it, like you go out and you see thousands of animals in one day. Like in 1 month, I might see 5 whitetail roaming around, and it's like I don't think people here can understand like what wildlife truly is.
I'll just put it per se, when you go hunting here, you go hunting for one species, right? You go elk hunting, you go deer hunting, like go to Africa, man, you're menu.
Yeah.
Well, especially like where my house is and where you guys have hunted it's different than most of Africa and most of South Africa. And South Africa too is first world compared to almost all of the rest of Africa. But the fact that where my house is and on Crusaders property, that you'll see 500 wild free-range animals in one day in 25 different species. Like, it's a very unique, special place where I live. But, back to some of the elephant controversy, like, I post it intentionally, and I'm full body mounting that elephant intentionally and putting it in the museum that we're building where my house is in Africa, because I want people to see it and want to go there to hunt. Because the forest elephant, like, it's on the endangered list. But since they started hunting in the started back hunting in the rainforest in Cameroon, the elephant population has increased. It's not declined, because hunters don't, like in this day and age, aren't causing the extinction of animals. It's poaching is what causes the extinction of animals.
Like non-regulated hunting.
Just killing the animals for something else. And most of it, when it comes to elephants, almost all the poaching is the ivory going to Asia. Yeah. Like, it's not Americans, it's not Europeans. The forest elephant, like, I can't even bring that ivory into America or anything. Mm-hmm. But I want people to be aware, because it's on an endangered list, but they only live and have only ever lived in a really small area. And the population did get reduced when there wasn't anti-poaching. And some of the other countries, surrounding countries where there are forest elephants, like the Congo and the DRC and stuff, but it's all in one little area. They had war for a lot of years, or right now, you still can't go there having war. And so there is no anti-poaching. So the elephants get decimated there, but it's by the natives. It's not by Europeans or Americans going there to hunt. In Cameroon, there's never, like in that article, they say it survived civil war. Like you said, there's never been a civil war in Cameroon. Yeah. Like, the whole article is bullshit, except for they did say I shot it legally and said that I owned a firearms company or something. Yeah. A girl that messaged me this morning and said some stuff like, how could you do this? It's like, it's so pathetic. And I was like, okay, what parts? Like that, you would shoot this elephant that was a monument, that was a staple there, that was famous. And I said, it's sad to me that people are so ignorant they will automatically believe this article. Yeah. And she says, what do you mean? What can you disprove? And I said, okay, if this is a famous elephant, look up who named it, and then message me a picture that you find of this elephant alive. Yep. And so anyway, she messaged me back like 30 minutes later, and she's like, I'm sorry, I just spent the last half hour. And she goes, there is no picture of this elephant. There is no mention of this elephant anywhere on the internet other than this
just
article.
Made up a name.
And it's like, yeah, it's all made up. Like, it's not real. But the kid, so I go through the whole thing with the elephant. It's like, okay, how could you ever shoot an elephant? It's like, do you know how an elephant dies in the wild? It gets 6 sets of teeth. As they wear down, new ones come in. Once the 6 sets gone, they starve to death.
Wow.
That's how an elephant dies in the wild. That's it. Kruger National Park, and it's on the border of South Africa and Mozambique, one of the most famous parks in the world. It's incredible. And when I hear the stories of the park 30 years ago and the way it looked and everything, well, they stopped culling elephants in the park. And I drove through a section of it for over an hour where it looked like a tornado went through there. There is not a live tree. Every tree is pushed over or broken in half. Everything is dead, and the elephants are eating dry bark now rather than greens, the leaves, and the soft roots. So that means like an elephant in the wild will live 60 years. Elephants now in Kruger are going to live about 40 years because they're wearing their teeth out because they're eating dried bark and they're not eating soft stuff. And now in this hour drive, we didn't see anything other than a couple elephants. No kudu, no water buck. So they destroyed the land, and now nothing inhabits the land because everything has been destroyed.
That's what's not talked about is the other animals that are affected by.
Yeah, and to grow those trees back is 60 years. So it's already too late to save Kruger. And it's not what's talked about. It's like, how do you think elephants die in the wild?
Yeah.
Like, they starve to death. And when all their food is gone and they start eating bark, now their lifespan is shortened by 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
Like, how are you saving elephants?
Yeah. I would shoot an elephant for sure. I at this point where I'm at with like hunting and how I've gotten into hunting, I've only killed or shot an animal with the Q gun. I've never used anything else before, so it would have to be like a Q gun probably for me. Would you?
I don't know. The elephant is Africa. I've been to Africa like 4 times now, and then when I was in Tanzania, I came across elephants in the wild and had a mock charge and stuff. So I mean, it was like put you on edge. It wasn't on my list. I probably would. I think I'll get there. I think I'm too early in my like international hunting.
Yeah.
Like
I think for me
right now,
the issue is I got to go to places where elephants are.
Yeah. And I would do it. Cameroon, I would be there in a heartbeat, but I want some other animals there. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still pretty young in my
elephant is definitely once you're like seasoned and have hunted internationally a few times, multiple times.
I haven't been scared on my Cape Buffalo hunts. The elephant, when it did the mock charge thing, like put me on edge a little bit. That's a different. Thanks, huge man.
Well, that's something. Well, you can go. I mean, you can hunt elephants in South Africa. You can hunt them in Zim. You can hunt them in Botswana, places that aren't like Cameroon.
Yeah.
Southern Africa is way safer and easier than Central or Western Africa.
Yeah.
I don't know, the way you like buffalo, I don't think you'd do it. Because to me, there is no more dangerous hunt in the world than a forest elephant in the rainforest. And the reasons being, you don't see them until you're 5, 10, 15 yards at most from it.
When you were in there, what do you smell? Can you smell
COVID, I can't smell anything. But there's no wind. It's too thick in the forest, so you don't have to worry about your scent. It doesn't travel. So you're going on tracks. You can't even see 5 yards. So when you get to it, you shoot it close. Like you could get a mock charge from a regular elephant in an open area, like in a savanna, like in Botswana, because you could see the elephant 100 yards away. And if you get 50, 60 yards and he decides to mock charge you, he's got time to make up his mind if he's going to lower his head and actually charge you, or it's going to be a mock charge. And you have time to see his body posture to see, and you have time to yell at him and not shoot right away.
Hey.
Yeah, and that works. It works often. I mean, once the elephant makes up your mind, you're not change his mind. But, once it's ears or, he puts his head down, you're getting charged. A forest elephant, if you bump it or spook it, or it smells you or it sees you or it hears you, it doesn't have time to decide if it's a mock charge. Like it feels threatened.
It has option A.
I mean, you got 1 second to shoot it.
Yeah.
And if you shoot it at 5 yards from you and it's running, it's going to kill you anyway because it's going to fall on you. So you're already dead.
Yeah.
So it's a very different hunt than being in a savanna to where you can see it at distance then make up your mind.
Does your PH have a backup? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rad and I both have guns, and it's a serious situation. Like it's because it's funny. I got a lot of these messages too, and it's like, and you can tell it's people never been to Africa. They've only seen them in zoos or the circus. And they'd say, oh, such a big man. You go, such a sweet, kind animal. You can just walk up to it and shoot it like, as a trophy. You can go shoot it like cattle. And I'm like, okay. So you've never been around an elephant or a herd of elephants or a cow with a calf or in the rainforest.
Yeah.
Because please, fat woman, let me take you for a walk in the rainforest for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Talk to us about tsetse flies, because I still have scars on my hands, but
Tsetsies, fortunately, they're generally just around bodies of water. So if you want to hunt, they're the worst things ever.
Dude.
You know, they're so bad that like domestic animals cannot live where there are tsetse flies.
What are they?
Dude, imagine a fly that you could smack with a hammer and still not kill it.
You have to smash it and roll it and get its wings off of it. Like you can't just smash it.
They're like,
And it eats,
they're big.
It eats your blood.
Yeah.
And it's small. And you know, like a horse fly, how that hurts like hell. And there's one. Well, tsetsies don't quit biting and sucking your blood. And it's not one, there's 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
Like it is, you would slit your wrist after about 2 hours of being in the middle of a bunch of them. It's terrible. They're the worst things. So yeah, but fortunately those are predominantly just around the bodies of water where the Sitatunga live. And, you know, that's a antelope that eats like aquatic vegetation stuff. So they spend 80% of their lives in water. And Sitatunga even, and it looks like Inyala or something, but it swims underwater to eat
it's like
foliage.
it's like their horns go backwards, like
Yeah,
kind
they
of
kinda
come
go
back
back,
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like Inyala.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, you know, what's interesting about that hunt to me is it's the hunt itself. You know, with sheep hunting, that's a very difficult hunt and physically demanding. And you climb mountains, the air is very thin, but it's dangerous in the sense if you got lost or you got hypothermia or you fall and break your leg or something.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that's like dangerous about that. It's just, you have to be mentally tough and physically prepared to do that hunt.
Conditions, mountain hunting.
Yeah, it's mountain
different
conditions. But every step so in the rainforest, 120 degrees.
Yeah.
The humidity is about 1,000,000%. You're just sweating. There is no way not to sweat. Your whole body, between your toes, everywhere. And every step you take, the pygmies have to cut the vegetation and the vines. And still, every step, you're using your hands to move vines, and you're stepping over logs and vines and roots, and it'll be wet and muddy. Every step is a struggle. And you'll go maybe 10, 15 kilometers in the jungle. And where every step you're fighting stuff. And every snake is venomous. There are bugs that bite you and shit all the time. If you step on these, there's two kinds of ants in the rainforest. There are these little ones, and they have the trail. If you step on those, they come all up and bite the shit out of you, and it hurts. Then they have these big ones. I forget what they're called. They're like black ants here, big black ants. But they bite you, and they have a stinger on their ass. They hunt and bite you and sting you at the same time. And it's fucking painful.
Double up on you.
Yeah. So, like, everything there. The good thing is there are no thorns like in South Africa. But all the vines have like fish teeth on them. So if you try to pull away, it grabs you, it'll rip your clothes, and it cuts you, but just like scratches your skin.
Tommy, you still feel like you got this, man?
All day long. I got this. Jeez.
As we get into this.
He wouldn't leave the airport.
No sweat.
Not so anyway, the hunt is just challenge. I mean, I think it's, even when I did the Lord Derby in the savannah, that is such a difficult hunt, but I'm stronger now than when I did that hunt. But both these hunts, I think if you gave them to 90% of hunters and they knew what the hunt was, they would absolutely not go.
Yeah.
But it's challenging, but it also makes it rewarding. And I like hunting dangerous game, you know, and there's a consequence to it eventually. And this is just the one where, you know, I trust Rad very much with a gun and very much hunting when we're hunting, and he's super knowledgeable. And, so, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Like, we got to be careful. You can't make mistakes, and, you know, you be alert. And you can't do this if you're not sure when you get scared and something's coming at you trying to kill you that you can't shoot it. If you're going to run, you don't need to go do this hunt.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a test in that way. So it's always like kind of an ego thing, but it's a challenge, right? I mean, that's why you want to go and shoot a sheep. Like, it's the trophy to me just represents this very difficult thing you did. I mean, you guys know, like, I don't have any African animals in my house in America or anything. No. Like, it's not to go as a trophy. Like, to me, I want to post these pictures, and I'm full body mounting this elephant, because I want people that come to Crusader or come do Plains Game Hunt to consider going and hunting these places so that they can maintain a value because there is demand for the hunt and these animals will survive. I didn't grow up around animals, and I wasn't a huge animal lover actually until I started hunting and understanding conservation. Like, I love elephants, but they're assholes and you can't have too many of them. You know, there's several, well, this kid I responded to, I'll read that. And, so he was like, I seriously want to know, why would you do this if it not for the trophy? Yeah. And I said, the adventure. Like, the trophy just represents that I accomplished this difficult thing, and it's a memory of this incredible adventure that I had. The things that I saw in, I've talked about now for 30 minutes, things that I saw in Cameroon with the pygmies, it's incredible. It's like you're on a different planet and at a different time. Yeah. And you're doing something that's not easy. That's why people are ignorant, because they don't go, because it's not soft. There's no Hilton. It's not easy. There's no air conditioning. There's screens. There's no windows. There's no, and we're out in the middle of the jungle. If something happens, there's no saving you. Yeah. Like, you just die. Yeah. And I think with a lot of men, like, the small part of your brain, there's something to that. Like, as a man, like, you want to be challenged.
You want to go on that adventure.
Yeah. You want to know you can do it. Yeah. And yeah, that's part of an ego thing, but it's like, I love the adventure. I do not want to work in an office and every day and not have adventure. I don't want to. I don't even know how to explain it, how I'm like driven to do this now. But I want these animals to survive, like the species, individual animals. Like, it is bullshit. This is how, like, we create a value for these animals. And, your hopes and dreams and well wishes and ignorance and emotions about it aren't going to save these animals. I know how much I spend on conservation every year, and if people aren't willing to sacrifice the same, like, you get an opinion, but just like shove it up your ass. Like, I don't need to hear it. Yeah. Like, you're going to message me, you don't know me, and tell me you hope my children die? Like, well, yeah, why would I care about your opinion? You're obviously a fucking moron. But so
we can't even have a conversation after you start it like that. So.
And it's not like,
no, if you can't be honest or have some open mind,
it's not like what we're doing here is out of the ordinary. It's been the ordinary since the dawn of time and the existence of humans, right? Yeah. And so, like, what is out of the ordinary now are these people. So,
in one of Donnie Vincent's videos, which, what a great conservationist and hunter, and just a cool guy. But he's like, if you're alive today, someone in your family at some period was a terrific hunter. Mm-hmm. Like, most of the time people have been alive, hunter, gather, like, that's what you had to do to survive. Yeah. And so if you're alive today, you need to think a hunter somewhere in your family at some point. And that's just like such a great way of looking at it, because too, you have someone who's like, there's plenty of meat available for you to not to go. It's like, you realize somebody's killing these, and these animals are in feedlots, and who knows what they're pumped full of and what you're putting in your body.
Yeah. Like, they still had to die at some point.
But the majority of the comments that I get are actually from men. And, like, from my point is, like, they'll say, oh, you're not a man, you got a small dick, and you're doing this for ego. It's like, okay, so you're a man because you're so soft, you eat meat, but you can't kill it yourself. You have to ask another man to go kill it for you. Like,
it's always,
we're not starting at the same place in this conversation.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I came from the ag industry to begin with, and I go through the same stuff over there, like people's misconceptions, and there's always, just like poachers, right? There's just bad people in every part of the freaking world at this point. Yeah, and it goes the same way, but
this is like that and uneducated, like
it's ignorant. And
it is.
I think we can all agree, like, most people are decent people, and you care about children, whether they're your own or they're not. The same thing with women, right? Like, we're built, in my opinion, to ensure their safety, help to take care of them, especially the children, and that's the way it should be. In the Western world, we generally really honor women. Yeah. That ain't the same way in a lot of places in the world. But yeah, the idea is, it's just ignorance. Like, if I don't know where my meat comes from and I don't see someone kill it, then that's fine. It's like, well, that's immature.
But it's like as we kind of go down this path where humans are, we like to pay people to do the things that we don't like to do, right?
I agree. I
Take
don't
care
want
of
to
your
mow my
garbage.
lawn.
Where the hell does your garbage go?
Yeah.
Like you pay for people to go take care of that for you. And we've gotten to the point now with our food, like we don't want to go grow our own food. We don't want to go.
It's hard.
Kill our animal. Like I don't think any of us like to sit there and like kill an animal and love to watch it die. Like I think we do to an extent. Like we like to go hunt, but this
it's
whole
a
like
small part. But yeah, it's the adventure, the fact you're going to feed your family. So like, I don't ever want to see any animals suffer ever.
Yeah. No, I don't think any hunter does. I mean, you teach that to your kids when you take them out hunting of like good shots, but man, shit happens too.
Yeah.
And you got to be prepared for it.
You got to accept that. I mean, if you hunt long enough, you're going to lose animals. You're going to wound animals. And I think as, like you growing up in the city too, it's like you've been around animals your whole life. I didn't develop a real appreciation, respect, and love for them until I started hunting, which doesn't seem rational.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound rational, but like I think that's what happens often. I shoot a lot of animals, and I'm unapologetic about it. For any reason, if I want a trophy and it's legal, I'm going to take a trophy. The reality is in Africa, it's like I can take a trophy, but every piece of that goes somewhere. Like that meat is not wasted. It feeds the staff. It provides jobs.
I think what you need to know about an animal to hunt it, though, and that's what a lot of people don't get, is like these people that are anti-whatever, they know nothing about the animals. And you ask like an elk hunter, right? He can tell you like what season they start breeding, what type of food they like to eat, like shelters that they like to go into, areas that they like they know that animal through and through. So they develop kind of a love for that animal, Ask an elk hunter how they feel about wolves. They friggin' hate them because they love elk, even though they go hunt them, they love them more than any greenie does. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Like I think reintroducing wolves in a lot of places is probably a mistake. And I actually love and respect wolves too. Yeah. Even coyotes. Mm-hmm. Like wolves can kill for like training and like game and stuff like that. And even domesticated dogs can pack up and do that. But coyotes generally only kill to eat. Yeah. And so as much as I don't want coyotes on my farm because I wanted turkey and deer, like I shoot the coyotes, but I respect the coyotes a lot. Yeah. And that's only learned through understanding the animal.
I respect their savviness and their like true predator nature that they have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like domestic cats where they go kill a bunch of animals and bring it to you as a gift. I respect the cat's ability to hunt, but it's like coyotes don't do that. They don't kill things for the fun of it. They kill things to eat them. Yeah. So, that's where I stand on like poaching. If it's subsistence and they need protein, I don't have that much of a problem with it. But yeah, if it's to sell, part of the animal to the Chinese or something, then I hate that. But that's where I was saying like most of the outfitters and stuff like that, it's all you do is, a couple times a week, you give a carcass or two to the local villages and stuff. Yeah. And what they do is they'll stop poaching because they don't want to go out and work and have to hunt either. It's like, God, if you'll like bring me meat, fine. Yeah, man. And you just make a deal with them, and that works great.
I mean, we like Uber Eats over here. People bring us food.
I'll tell you, like one of the best moments I've had since I've started hunting was a few weeks ago. I snuck to Atlanta in between a trip, and my cousins and brothers and sisters came over to see me, and we made a lasagna with the deer that I shot last year. And like looking at all my family eating and having conversation, and, like they were eating something that I shot, like it really gave me just a warm feeling inside. And I looked, it almost like I got emotional slightly. Like I just I provided
the man of the family.
Yeah, I provided for like all. I mean, it was like 10 of us, and they were all eating, enjoying themselves, and like that was provided, by
it's
me.
So much healthier than you buying processed meat from a store.
Yeah.
And so not only are you feeding them, giving them nutrition, like it's a healthier alternative than them going to the grocery store.
It was a great feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like the vegetarian argument, like we talked about earlier, is just so funny because it's like, oh, I would never harm an animal. Like you kill so many animals by clearing land. Yeah. Like, but it's not an elephant or it's not a pretty zebra. So you're fine with killing it because it's an ugly little animal.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to decide because, you're self-righteous about your belief in your morals, and it's like you're basing this on what? Like, what animals are okay to kill and aren't? This young kid in Germany, like college-age student or college-age kid, this message asked, and I said it's for the adventure to me, and I said it feeds to this particular elephant that I shot. Fed 2 villages, all right, and it'll feed them for 2 months. Hunting gives the elephant a value. That protects them from being poached into extinction. That's the reality of this. Without hunting them and paying the villages, providing them with jobs, feeding the natives, they are a conflict animal, meaning the elephants are going to come in, eat their corn, push their little houses over, this sort of stuff. And the natives will kill them, either because of that, they'll snare them and kill them, and they'll eat the meat then, or more likely, they'll be poached for the ivory to sell to the Chinese. They kill them because they are destructive, or they eat their crops, etc. Elephants grow six sets of teeth. Once that 6th set wears out, the elephants starve to death. Like, that's another reality of this that people don't like to think about or don't understand. We only hunt old elephants that no longer live in herds, because a lot of the arguments from the women will be they're emotional creatures that, live in these herds, and that's their family, and it's emotionally damaging and scarring to them, and they never forget about it once you shoot an animal out of the herd. Well, we don't hunt animals out of a herd. Yeah. Like, you don't hunt elephants out of a herd. Don't even hunt buffalo out of a herd. So once the elephant's gotten older and it no longer is in the herd, it's been replaced by a more dominant male, which is a good thing.
I was going to ask, why is it out of the herd?
Yeah, it generally gets older, and some other bull that's younger in its prime can kick its ass.
Gotcha.
So it generally always has to do with sex. And then too, old men, old men, you think in your family, they don't like hanging around the kids a lot and all the women running their mouths. They'd rather be with another old dude or two hanging out, doing crowd estimation and talking about beer and politics, whatever, or be alone than be hanging out with fucking toddlers all day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true in like every species, right? Just like the real cheeky animals, like in every species, are always the women, like mama bear type stuff. Like, you are about 10 times more, maybe 100 times more likely to be charged in a normal situation where you encounter elephants by a cow with a calf than a bull. Bull, and the same thing with a lion. Like, it's rare that a male lion is going to attack someone unless it's wounded. But a female with cubs, a lioness is far more dangerous with cubs and far more aggressive than a male lion. That's part of it. And then it's like because he wanted to know where I shot it and so like that. And I said I shot it. It was a side brain shot, and that's always the frontal or the brain shot's what you always want to make on an elephant. It's instantly dead, no pain. It's
no
done.
Suffering. Yeah.
And this kid, he thanked me and said, he appreciated me taking the time, and it changed his mind that it had never been explained to him that way.
Yeah.
But I think whether it was the lady that messaged me about it or this kid, it's like they were open-minded enough to want to understand, and it changed their mind, just like it did with me at some point and with you at some point. You always grown up around animals and hunting stuff. You knew this your whole life, but
never went elephant hunting, but
yeah. So but it's the same.
It's different,
in that regard, as far as conservation. But I like zoos are a real controversial topic, and I understand everyone hating zoos, but I still like zoos, and I want them to exist for this reason. I don't go anymore, and I don't like seeing the animals in it. But so many like Westerners and it's their first exposure to African animals. And African animals are just wild. They're crazy. They're awesome. Whether you see lion or zebra or elephants, like all these wonderful animals, but you don't get to see them unless you go to Africa, unless it's in a zoo. And my hope and my belief is that still captures a lot of kids and inspires them to want to grow up and participate in this some way. Whether they're vets or they want to go visit Africa to see these things, or they understand hunting and conservation and they want to go hunt them to ensure that these, all these different species survive and have a value. And that's a wonderful thing. But okay, so to the hunt. So what you do in Cameroon in the rainforest, it's interesting. It's different than most other hunting because you never see any animal until you shoot it. So you don't get to watch it. We don't get to go up on a mountain and glass and watch their behavior and watch the animals and pick, a old mature bull that we want to go after that's the right one to take. No. So there will be salines, which is basically a hole dug, water in it, and they put salt in it, and animals will come in and drink the water for the salt and the minerals and stuff. And so you can put up trail cameras, but like really experienced, like real trackers in these areas are real trackers. They'll be able to identify the different tracks and identify if it's a mature male track.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's very amazing. But what's more amazing, they will go through the jungle where half the time 90% of the time you can't even see your feet. And they're cutting with machetes, using machetes to look. And they will track a single animal for 10, 12, 15 kilometers before you get to it. So 6, 8, 10 hours in the jungle. And you will eventually get to that animal. And if it's bongo or buffalo, the dogs bay it half the time. They don't bay it, the animal gets away. That's the end of that hunt. With elephants, you don't use dogs. They can't bay an elephant. And so like when people say, and that one that I shot is likely for a dwarf forest elephant, likely the world record. And so that's like, I don't hunt for that, but that's kind of a cool thing. Yeah. And when we shot it and everything, like I'll get to that. So we're tracking this thing and the 2 lead trackers. So once it'll be the 4 guys with machetes cutting through, and it'll be Rad and it'll be me. And so as we get closer, and they can tell by the shit and the tracks and all kinds of things, the mud, if it's wet on the trees from where it was rolling in mud from where we originally found tracks. Once it's not dry and we're catching up to it and it's still wet, they'll move. The 2 head trackers stay in front. The 2 junior trackers move to the rear, and I move right behind them. And then Rad moves behind me as well. And we know that we're getting close. So that's my signal that I know we're getting close. And you still might get to it, and it might be young. And like for the elephant, for instance, they measure the rear, or they measure one of the tracks, and they want it to be 18 inches, and they know it's a big elephant. But that doesn't tell you like the tusk size and necessarily the age. It just tells you it's a big, mature elephant. Yeah. Well, this track was only 16 inches, but it's the longest tusk known to be shot in a forest elephant. And we didn't know that. So like, just once you get to it, it is what it is. And if it's an old elephant, that's the elephant you shoot. So it's really lucky. So it's not bragging about, I shot it like a world record. It's just cool that it happened, but it was sheer luck that this elephant happened to be ginormous. It even had small feet. But we happened to get, once they moved me up, like in the line, in the stack up, it wasn't 20 yards till we saw the elephant.
What did you see first?
Saw its the back half, its body, its ass broadside facing right. And I saw it at a distance, meaning 14 yards. And like most of my other animals in the rainforest have been considerably closer before you could see it. So this one happened to be in a little open area, not much bigger than this room. And there was a hole in the canopy, and there was sun hitting it on the head. And so we couldn't see the front half of it. So I crawled on my knees, and I got in a position. There was a little hole through there to where if you want to brain the elephant, you got to shoot it here or in the temple if it's a side brain. And that's what you want. You can shoot them behind the shoulder and kill them, but they're gonna run for maybe a kilometer or so, and you got to track them. And there's more risk in losing the animal and stuff like that. And there's more risk probably in wounding the animal. And I was down on both knees, and I found a hole about yay big to shoot through, and the sunlight was hitting on its temple, and its temple's triangular like indentation, and that was glowing. And that was like a great, like I got lucky with that. So I took the side brain, and he collapsed. Normally if you miss the brain but you stun them, they fall head first and then ass down. You need to quickly follow up because they'll get up and take off, and you lose the elephant. But if they sit down first, their back legs give out. That's a huge indicator that it's a good brain shot. And so that's exactly what happened. And he went down instantly. So it's the best death that animal could ever have. He was older than we thought when we got to him. And of course, the trackers and the PH are like, this is huge. You don't know what you shot. Well, I've only seen like one or two other forest elephant ever because we've tracked some and then not shot.
Yeah.
Because you get there and it's small or younger than we think. And that is, and you get close enough to where, and that happened a couple of times, and one of them saw us and like fucked off, but I was able to see it and understood why we didn't shoot it. And that's the hunt. And that was, I don't know, 9 hours, something like that.
What gun did you use?
So that's the cool part, right? It's the Mega Fix and 375 Ruger with an aim point on it, reptilian mount, and one of our new Magnum small silencers for hunting. What was so great is like a dangerous game rifle is typically going to be about 9 to 15 pounds. This gun with the aim point on it is 6 pounds.
Yeah.
And I had the stock folded and it slung on my chest. So I'm able to use both hands where everybody else that carries a gun is carrying. They can't do it with a sling because on your shoulder it gets hung up in the vines and it's sticking up. So it gets caught in vines. So they only have one hand to work with the whole time. And I know, so it was just like more benefit that is practical to the fixed rifle. And that's where I see a future with it, even for hunting in Africa in the jungle. And we get dangerous game cartridges available. If I'm carrying a gun for 10 hours, like I want the lightest thing, most compact thing I can make, a shot with. And that's the fixed rifle.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And the fast follow-up shots, if necessary, with that 45-degree bolt throw. Not having to top load when you're in the jungle and trying to get in position if you need to reload. Yeah, I got more rounds in the magazine. All I got to do is drop a mag, put another one in.
Yeah. So you got quite the experience now with the Mega Fix, huh?
I would say, and you guys got to have some too, but I was just in Africa for 3 months and predominantly used the Mega Fix, either in 16-inch 300 Win Mag. I used a 20-inch 7 PRC and then a 16-inch 375 Ruger.
Yeah.
The gun changes like Magnum caliber hunting. I mean, the engineers aren't getting worse at their jobs. I'll say that.
Yeah. I spoke about it on our last podcast, but I shot an eland and waterbuck with the 7 PRC Mega.
7? Yeah.
And I was like a little nervous about the recoil. I was like, light gun, all the things you think about. And I was like, this totally feels like a 308 fix with a silencer.
Yeah.
And super manageable. Like, was able to watch my impacts, call my misses. With the gun that is like ideal. When you think of those calibers, like the fix does not look like that gun. If you ask a 60-year-old guy in a gun store, hey, like draw a picture of a 300 Win Mag gun. It's not the fix. It's not the Mega Fix. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's so revolutionary.
This is interesting because, Donnie Vincent, I was with him when he shot the Mega Fix first and took his first animal. And it was his longest kill he's ever got. Right out of the bat, he just shot that gun so easily. And he had some quotes. I think he was on a podcast here recently with Mark Kenyon, whitetail hunter guy. Kind of traditionalist style too, and he was asking about that, and he had a great quote. Me and him were talking about was like, just because the rifle didn't look traditional, but what it did was enhance his experience because he didn't have to worry about all this other stuff because the stock folded, because it was lighter weight, he could hike further. Like, when he got to shoot the animal and stuff like that, the way he was able to like fix that, that mag well basically up against his pack and get sturdy. Like, it just made his whole experience hunting even better. And how, Donnie Vincent says it in a much more epic way, than I ever can, right? But
he is.
But yeah, it was a good point on that. But yeah, I mean, as soon as he touched that Mega Fix, it was like that's all he wanted now. Yeah,
It gives you the features. I feel like it gives you the features you didn't realize you could have in a gun like that, because you don't think of traditionally a gun. You don't think you can get the cool modernized features in a bolt action rifle.
But it's like every hunting situation I can talk about Western hunting or, you know, pronghorn hunting or whatever, getting it out of a truck, or Africa or Cameroon or whatever. It's just like a great hunting rifle does these things. It applies everywhere.
Yes, it improves every aspect of it. You know, it's interesting, and I love, like, all of us are gun guys.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to get into it. Like, Donnie Vincent doesn't care about guns.
Nope.
No, I mean, he would probably just prefer to shoot everything with a bow most of the time. Didn't care about shooting anything far. But seeing him, even before we were working with him, like this first exposure to the fix and everything, and how it just blew him away, because he's hunted his whole life and he sees, like, right away all these benefits. When he saw the gun, oh, that doesn't look like a hunting rifle. But when he understood the folding stock and he could adjust it to fit him and how good it shot, and, you know, folding up and being lightweight and going in a pack easier, all the practical stuff's what matters to him.
And all his pilots and stuff like that, pilots up in Alaska, immediately when they saw his, they were like, we want one of those. Like, it, you know, fit their lifestyle perfect.
You know, it was one of the PHs that went with us a lot of the days. He had a double rifle, a nice VC Vernicron 470. You know, it's an expensive gun. It's wood and blued and fancy. And then Rad carries a CZ blued gun with a wood stock. Every day we got back, they had to take those guns apart out of the stock for Rad, fore end off and disassembled for Henka, and then they had to oil them down, clean them, and everything. I never touched the fixed rifle once in 2.5 weeks.
My kind of rifle.
And I'm like, that alone. Me not having to disassemble the gun 14 times or 17 times, whatever it was, and clean it so it wouldn't rust, and we could use it
rested. You get an extra hour of sleep. Like, man, we can play that all kinds of ways. But
just all these things where if I didn't go and do this stuff, I would never know any of these things.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't think about so many of the things that we've done. Same thing with you guys and the engineers. You know, I carry a fixed rifle on my chest 150 days of the year. And, you know, I shoot hundreds of animals a year, whether we're culling or I'm trophy hunting or whatever the thing is that I'm doing, in and out of vehicles, in blinds, walking through the jungle, walking 20 miles a day through a savanna when it's 110 degrees and I'm in the sun. Like, all of these scenarios, and the fix has advantages in every way over all the other guns. And it's going to change the hunting landscape. Yeah. There was a German guy that we were in camp with for a couple of days, and he's into guns, and he's like, well, you know, this gun will not have any, there will be no interest in Europe for this gun. And I was like, oh, why is that? Well, we're very traditional Europeans. And I was like, well, why the fuck aren't you using a musket? Like,
you're not that traditional.
Like, well, I said that because we like traditional guns. I was like, because you guys have never been exposed to the next generation of guns. Yeah. It's like, you're not using black powder, my man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear that. And his gun especially was stainless with a synthetic stock. Yeah. It's like, well, why don't you have a blued gun?
Yeah.
Well, in the rainforest, it'll rust. I was like, oh, it's not very traditional.
Yeah.
And it's just like that attitude. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend you. And I was like, oh, it's just because you're German. But it was just like, you don't. I said, I've just been hearing this my entire career. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's Jason Hornady telling me 300 blackout will never be a thing, or, you know, nobody will want the honey badger, or, you know, 8.6, there's no use for it. Like, the fix, it's not a hunting rifle, nobody's going to hunt with. You know, like, our entire career, because we're just really given to innovation. I hear this shit every time we do something, and it just makes me laugh. Like, you never make me think I'm wrong. It just makes me think you're more ignorant than I thought. And anyway, that was that. I think if you know, Africa, I know changed your life, definitely changed my life. I think like wild Africa hunting is kind of the pinnacle. And I love it. Yeah. And anybody that wants to send me a DM, and you say whatever you want, but if you think that is an easy thing and it's like for a guy to go do because he's got some money, like, please go to the rainforest and do some hiking, go see some animals and report back.
Yeah.